Welcome to Books and Beyond with That Guy Jay. I am your host, That Guy Jay. Before we get started, if you could just take a quick second and hit the like, share, or subscribe button, really anything at all, it would go a long way and mean the world to me. Thank you so much for the continued support. But let's just dive into today's watch of the day. Today's watch of the day is the Casio Wave Scepter. This is one of my favorite recent acquisitions. This has a lot of very cool features. It may look just like a normal analog quartz Casio watch, but it is actually solar powered. And one of the coolest features with this, and the reason it's called the Wave Scepter, is this actually connects with a radio frequency. It's different for each country. In the United States, it connects to a radio frequency from a tower in Fort Collins, Colorado. And once a week, this actually updates itself. This weekend is when the clocks change, so this will automatically update itself on Sunday. Once a week, it connects to the radio tower, and it corrects itself to the exact second, so this watch is extremely accurate. And it's solar powered, like I said. Once the battery is fully charged in the sun, it will last about 6 months without any light. You could put it in a drawer and not wear it for 5 months, and if you took it out, it would still have a charge, and it would be the exact right time, whether the clock's changed or not. It would update the date correctly. It also has a ton of features that many Casios have. It has a world clock. It has alarms. It has a stopwatch. It is just full of features for a very affordable price of under $100. This is actually from the Japanese market. It's not technically sold in the United States. You can get it on Amazon, though. It's third party. It's not coming directly from Casio. But overall, this is an amazing watch. I threw it on this nice leather strap. I think it pairs very well with it. And I have absolutely loved wearing this. I've been wearing it almost every day. Now let's get into the main topic of this week's episode. This episode will be coming out March 4th, 2025. The significance of this and why I'm telling you the date at all, because I never do that, is on March 4th, 2024, I made what I would consider my first official BookTok video. I had made a few videos here and there on TikTok. I had shown books. I had shown my bookshelf. I had never shown my face, and I had only attempted maybe a couple of voiceovers. I didn't really like how those went, but on March 4th of last year, I showed my face for the first time, and I spoke for the first time on TikTok. I actually believe it was a video in my car with my Kindle. It was a Kindle-related question. I'd have to go back and check exactly what it was. But I thought that this would be a great time to reminisce and talk about my first year on BookTok, how I think it's gone, what I've learned from BookTok. Oh, and there goes our special guest, Nala. She's leaving us. But yeah, I just thought that this would be a great time to go over my first year of content creation on BookTok. In general, I would say that BookTok is my first full foray into content creation. I did make some content years ago related to my Golo Auto podcast and car-related stuff, but that was more about the cars. I wasn't in a lot of the content other than the podcast. This was before TikTok, so it was on Instagram, and it was very much photo-based instead of video-based, and like I said, I wasn't in most of those photos. This has really been my first attempt at making content. I don't rewatch my videos in general very often. I would not like to go back and watch my videos because I imagine I would cringe pretty hard at them. I think that's probably true for most of us. I do think my videos have improved over the last year. I am by no means the greatest with them. I don't think that I'm the strongest reviewer out there, but I try to very much just be 100% honest and try and be myself, and hope that others can relate to where I'm coming from with some of my reviews and some of my content. I try to be funny when possible. I like to make silly memes. That's been a lot of fun over the last year as well. So I guess I can rewind to the very first video and why did I start posting if I had never really been the type to make videos before? I'd never really been into content creation. What finally made me decide to do it? I think why I finally posted was a combination of things. Around this time last year was very difficult for me for personal reasons. There were some things going on in my personal life that were extremely hard, and I think I looked to TikTok in general as a form of escapism. I watched and consumed a lot of TikToks. I thought it might be fun to try my hand at creating them. It was an opportunity to learn a little bit about basic editing within the TikTok app and eventually moving on to CapCut and now moving back to editing in the TikTok app. But yeah, just I thought it would be something to occupy my mind. I was wanting to be creative. I was trying to come up with different things. And also, I had been on BookTok for a couple of years and I really enjoyed a lot of creators, and I had grown my TBR endlessly from watching TikTok. And I thought that maybe I could give back in some way and kind of share my experience with all of these books that I learned about from TikTok. I also have to credit BookTok to my increase in audiobooks. I had never really heard of Libby or Hoopla before, and I am an avid user of both of those now. I consume audiobooks very frequently. I love to have an audiobook on when I'm doing chores or when I'm laying down right before bed. Sometimes it's the first thing I do when I wake up. I pick up my audiobook from where I left off the night before. I'll just lay in bed and relax for a few minutes before I get going, leave the audiobook in my ear while I brush my teeth and get my day started. So I've really gained all of this from BookTok. So, like I said, I wanted to try my hand at creating, and I thought that maybe I could share my perspective. I've also discussed in previous episodes and on BookTok about my injury and how it's impacted my hobbies overall. For many years, I would say that I didn't really have any hobbies. I kind of rotted in the house, if you will. I did a lot of doom scrolling and I did some reading, but not a lot. And I think subconsciously I was yearning to join a community again. It had been a long time since I'd been part of one. The pandemic happened and we were all kind of locked down. And then I kept myself locked down once the pandemic ended just because of the injury and a lack of things to do and a lack of feeling like I could do things. It's something that I've been working past. I've been trying to get myself out there more despite the pain of the injury. I have to do it in moderation, but Book Talk has gotten me out of my comfort zone in a lot of ways. I think the other thing that I was trying to do with content creation was find a way to work through not only just general anxiety, but specifically social anxiety. It's something that I've struggled with since I was a teenager. I've had ups and downs with it at different times in my life where my anxiety was really bad. Other times I handled it better. And in recent years, I think, again, since the pandemic, I think that anxiety increased for a lot of people. And I was trying to find a way to work through that. And I thought that maybe putting myself out there, maybe making these videos would be a good way to do that. It would be a way to step outside of my comfort zone. And it definitely has been stepping outside of my comfort zone. I've gone live a few times. I've hosted pizza party lives for Book Talk It on several occasions. That will actually be happening again this Friday at 8 p.m. I'll be making a Book Talk post about that as well. But it really has helped me grow a ton. I wouldn't say that I'm by any means past my social anxiety, but I think it has certainly helped. I do feel more comfortable in front of the camera, which I hope is at least a little obvious by the fact that I've decided to make a podcast that's not only audio, but does have a visual component as well. And like I said before, I by no means think that I'm an expert content creator. I don't think I'm the best at this by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm enjoying the process. I've enjoyed learning, and I'm making goals to continue doing so. I've had a sporadic posting schedule on Book Talk so far this year. I think the potential of TikTok getting banned affected all of us. Leading up to it, I didn't have a whole lot of motivation to post because of the fear of it going away. It kind of felt like, what's the point? And since it came back 12 hours later, I was initially hyped and wanting to post, but then I've still just kind of been in this weird headspace where it's still up in the air and I just have to get myself back into some sort of a schedule and put my efforts towards being a little bit more creative on there again. I do miss my consistent posting. I've still consumed all of you guys. I've consumed your posts. I still very much enjoy scrolling Book Talk. Now, in terms of my reading, I think Book Talk has had a tremendous impact on not only the way I consume books, but the type of books I consume. Previously, In my 20s, I read a lot of thrillers. I read a ton of Harlan Coben. He was probably my favorite author for several years. And then I got into sci-fi and fantasy in my late 20s, early 30s, as I've discussed in previous episodes. But Book Talk has completely expanded my genre consumption. I read more romance last year than I ever thought I would read in a lifetime. I've gotten amazing nonfiction recommendations from Book Talk as well. I've read more horror in the last couple years than I ever thought I would. Horror was not one of my go-to genres for reading, but I've gotten some fantastic recommendations there as well. I think I've gotten recommendations that were great in just about every genre I can think of. I've read some classics. I've always dipped my toes in that, but I've read more classics in the last couple years from consuming book talks and building this endless TBR. I've also read some amazing literary fiction, and I still have a goal this year to get into some historical fiction because I think that that's a genre that I would really like. I should probably add that to my immediate TBR because at the end of last year I said that that was going to be a goal for this year, and I haven't picked up any yet, but I'll work on that. And this episode is kind of all over the place. I didn't really write an outline for this. I just thought I would sit down and yap about Book Talk and how much it's impacted me in the last year. And again, I think the biggest takeaway from this and the thing that I was probably yearning for but didn't expect to go the way that it did, and that would be community. I had no idea that I would meet so many people on this app and through the screen of my phone that I would consider friends. I've had some amazing conversations with countless people about different books. I've talked to people about so much more than books and just life in general. I've made so many connections that I never expected. And I think that the Book Talk community is probably one of the most positive communities I've ever been a part of. It is certainly the most positive community I've ever been a part of on the internet. The internet has a tendency to end up being a dumpster fire in a lot of cases. YouTube in particular, the comments can be very scary. Instagram seems to turn very negative in the comment section as well. Facebook is, I don't even know anymore. I rarely go on there. It just seems like an AI wasteland nowadays. But even Facebook had endless drama back in the day. And while there is drama in Book Talk and there are things that happen that people disagree on, I have to say, at least in the corner of Book Talk that I've ended up on, I think this is truly one of the most amazing, the most welcoming, the most encouraging corners of the internet that I've ever seen. And I feel so lucky to have found all of you and to be part of this. Again, I by no means rank myself as one of the top creators on here, but I definitely have a good time with it, and I've had an amazing time getting to know so many of you. And overall, yeah, I'm very thankful to be part of the Book Talk community. So now that my first year on Book Talk is under my belt, what do I want to do with my second year? And the answer to that is pretty much more of the same. I would like to continue to grow my community on there. I would love to engage with even more people. I would like to get even better at creating the content. And I think one of the things that I'd really like to improve on is my reviews. My reviews currently are very much vibe-based. I think I would like to get better at reviewing and maybe get a little deeper with some of the more serious books. There's a few people on Book Talk that I really look up to in terms of how they pull off their reviews, partially how they structure them, but just how deep they're able to get into it and how articulate they are and how they do such an amazing job at expressing their feelings. I think that's something I still need to work on. I do sometimes, most of the time, lack in confidence, so I kind of psych myself out when I try and get too deep into anything, and I doubt myself. I hope others can relate to that. I don't think I'm alone on that, but it is something that I struggle with, so that's something that I would love to improve on. I'm going to continue posting to try and keep building my confidence. I can say that I'm far more confident today than I was a year ago in terms of what to post, the quality of my post, and how I think it'll turn out. And I'm hopeful that in a year from now that will just continue to be the case, and that a year from now I'll be even more confident than I am today. I also think that Book Talk has helped me in ways that are not even remotely related to books. It's shown me how much I enjoy community and how much I enjoy discussing a common interest with others. I think it has motivated me to put myself out there more in terms of my watch hobby. It has given me a lot of time to think about past hobbies that maybe I'd like to get back into. It brought me this podcast, which has really given me an opportunity to think about hobbies. Last week, I was discussing how I was previously very into photography, and in the last several months, and especially the last couple of weeks, I've very much realized that someday I would absolutely love to get a camera again and get back into photography, see what's new with Lightroom. I haven't touched it in many years, but I would love to relearn Lightroom. I'm not sure how I would approach photography because of my injury. I can't really do street photography the way I used to, but I'm excited to potentially try new things in regards to photography. I think BookTok and the BookTok community have also shown me how possible it is to still have hobbies despite my injury. So, yeah, I know this has been probably a little rambly. I don't even know if I'm talking in circles at this point, but I do want to take a minute to say thank you to everybody who follows me on BookTok. Thank you to all of those that I follow. Thank you to everyone that interacts with my videos. Thank you for literally the endless recommendations. My TBR is massive, but I absolutely love it. As a mood reader, I love having this many choices at my fingertips. There's always so many things I could read based on all of y'all's recommendations. I've gotten to know some of your tastes, and I think they line up pretty closely with mine, so it's also great to be able to pick up a book fairly confident that I'm going to, at a minimum, like it, but potentially and probably love it based on some of you guys loving them. I'm just really, really happy to be a part of this community, and yeah, just thank you. And on an unrelated subject, but just something I wanted to talk about quickly in regards to this podcast, I am happy with the fact that I've been able to stick to an episode a week. Sometimes consistency like that is a thing that I struggle with. The one thing I have not been consistent with is the guests. And I know that several times I have mentioned that I'm going to have guests on soon. And I'm going to say it again, and this time I mean it. I'm getting messages out there to some people that I would love to have on here. I have already spoken to a couple of authors who said they would be on here. I just want to get through their books first. I don't want to have them on before I've had an opportunity to read what they've written. The reason I haven't been reaching out to anyone and the reason that I haven't had any guests on kind of all comes down to me. I have dropped the ball. And it comes from, again, like I mentioned before, it comes from a confidence thing. I think that the first two guests went fantastic. I'm so grateful that both Annie and Silas were willing to come on, and I really enjoyed the conversations. I really enjoyed being in the interviewer position. But since then, for some reason, I just haven't felt super confident in reaching out to more people to have on, and that's something that I am definitely working on. I'm reworking my pitch message that I'm going to be sending to several people probably this week. And I'm hoping that within the next week or two, I will have some guests lined up and potentially have episodes with guests maybe next week or the week after. That's going to be my goal. I'm mentioning this now because you guys get to hold me accountable, and I'm making myself be accountable by putting it out there. I do really want this to become a community. I would love to hear from everyone in the comments how they ended up on BookTok, what BookTok has meant to them, even if you haven't posted any BookTok content, even if you just consume it. And if you have any suggestions for anyone that you would like to see on the podcast as a guest, let me know in the comments, and I can try and make that happen. I think I've done a good job with consistently posting, and now it's time to up my game and become more consistent with the guests. And yeah, we're still pretty early into 2025. I have high hopes for this podcast as it continues throughout the year. I want to continue growing this community, and I want to continue to get better and better at this podcasting thing. But as always, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out of your week to join me. I will see you next week on the next episode of Books and Beyond with That Guy Jay. And one more time real quick, if you could just hit like or subscribe or share any of the buttons, again, means the world to me. Thanks so much, guys. I'll see you next week.